right now. Interesting story here. All right, Barnegat is about a half hour, 45 minutes up the road. Their pitcher, Jason Groome, he's the potential number one overall pick in the draft. The Phillies have scouted him. He has been deemed ineligible by the NJSIAA. Mike McGarry covers high school sports for the press. Mike, thanks for joining us, number one. Number two, give us a little bit of a story here. It seems that we've heard so much about the transfer rule from year to year to year. People seem to try to get around these rules all the time. They don't like the coach. They want to move. What is unique about this situation?
Well, I mean, what's unique about this situation is, number one, the athlete it happened to. I mean, Jason Groome is probably one of the top high school athletes in the country and was victim to it. Technically, Jason Groome did break the rule. I mean, he did transfer back to Barnegat without a bona fide change of residence. Did he break the spirit of the rule? I think what people find so frustrating is every season, like you mentioned, there are multiple athletes in the state of New Jersey who go to sometimes every lengths to circumvent this rule, and they're eligible right away. And here's a kid who just returned to Barnegat. It was a great story. He just wanted to play play his senior season with the kids he grew up with, and he's ineligible for what is probably going to amount to the next 2 weeks, and they have to forfeit some games because of this rule. And I think that's what has everybody so frustrated.
So is it really the rule that's the issue here? So from what you just explained, my understanding is he lived in Barnegat at an address, moved to Florida, and then moved back to Barnegat but never changed addresses, and because of that, so if he moved back to Barnegat but had a different address, he'd be okay?
Now, here's the key part of the rule. It's not only the athlete that has to move, it's parent and guardian, too. So while he went to IMG Academy in Florida, he was basically out of boarding school. His parents still lived in Barnegat. So technically his parents, they never moved. If his parents had gone to Florida with them and established residency in Florida, then when he comes back to Barnegat, he's eligible right away. There's no problem. But that's not the case now. Technically, the parent-guardian part of that rule is the part of the rule that people don't really notice or give much attention to, and that's what kind of tripped up Jason here.
All right, so Barnegat, were they not aware of the rule? That seems like it's pretty clear then. Did they just did they choose to ignore the rule?
No, I don't think Barnegat did that at all. I think they kind of just misinterpreted the rule, and which they kind of admitted in a statement that they made yesterday. Like many people, I mean, Barnegat probably took, is using the common sense approach. Hey, the kid lives in town. He was out of boarding school. He comes back. His parents live here. His parents pay taxes. Why shouldn't he be eligible right away? It's
right.
Not like he, and an IMG Academy is, a special situation. It's certainly not an ordinary run-of-the-mill high school. It's not like Jason went to Monsignor Donovan, or St. Augustine Prep and then came back to Barnegat. So it was an extraordinary case. So I just think they kind of just misinterpreted the rule, basically, and which they admitted in the statement that they, that they made on the situation yesterday.
Mike McGarry's with us, Press of Atlantic City. Now, Mike, I've seen a lot of criticism towards the NJSIA because of this rule. So why are they getting criticized? What should the rule be?
Well, I think, number one, to sort of knock the NJSIA is kind of unfair. I mean, they're an easy target. They're kind of like the cops on the beat that write you the speeding ticket when you're caught going 36 in a 35-mile-per-hour zone. I mean, the transfer issue is a big source of controversy in the state of New Jersey, and the NJSIA did form a committee to sort of look at the rule. The committee made several proposals on the transfer rule. There was a vote by the New Jersey high schools in December, and one of the proposals that committee, which the NJSIA formed, put forward would have allowed kids who transfer from a private school back to their public school, which, go from IMG to Barnegat, would have been eligible right away. But New Jersey's high schools voted those proposals down because they deemed some of the sanctions that they gave other transfers, private to private, public to private, to be too harsh. So if New Jersey high schools had approved that proposal, which came out of an NJSA committee, Jason Groome would be eligible and there would be no issues. So I think it's incumbent upon the state's high school superintendents, athletic directors, principals of every sort of high school public and private high school in New Jersey that's a member of the NJSA to sort of look at this issue and come up with what is a fair solution. I mean, I think the problem is that this rule is really left over from the time when there was a public school in town and there was a Catholic school in town. Now the situation, IMG didn't exist 50 years ago when this rule was written or first devised. The world is a lot more complicated now.
So I saw you tweet. You think the answer is no trend. Just let people go wherever they want if they can get there.
I think that's certainly a case to be made. I mean, people would argue you're going to have a wild, wild west situation. Well, I would argue you already have that situation now with people moving in with grandparents, people giving up guardianship of their kids, people renting apartments in town. If you just let people, I think too often the focus is on the high-profile athlete, the 40 or 50 football, basketball players who go to 2 to 3 high schools during their high school career. I mean, trying to stop them, you're hanging up, the Jason Groomes of the world and your regular high school athletes who just want to compete for their public school. If you think about it, Mike, I mean, Jason Groome's family pays taxes and pays school taxes in Barnegat. Why shouldn't their son, if he goes to Barnegat, be able to play baseball for Barnegat and he get the benefit of all the services that the Barnegat educational system sort of offers? It's like if Jason Groome went to Florida for 3 months and he moved back to Barnegat, the town of Barnegat doesn't say, well, we're not going to pick up your garbage for 30 days because you lived in Florida the last 6 months. No, you pay taxes and they pick up your garbage. You pay school taxes. You should be able to go to the public school and use all the services. Just like a singer, actor, a math genius who goes to Barnegat should be able to do the same thing.
This is a monumental day. McGarry and I agree on something.
Exactly.
He's Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. Thanks, Mike.
No problem. Anytime, Mike.